see, call to order and establishment of a quorum. Andrew Emmerich,
Here.
Beth Ann Holsey,
Present.
Dave Ott,
Here.
John Elkins,
Here.
Bill Simonelli present. Todd Reinhardt was unable to make the meeting, but we still have a quorum for tonight's meeting. And as we mentioned in an email last week, we have an opening on the board, which we'll discuss later in the meeting. General Manager Chuck Heel.
Here.
Okay. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the August 29th meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the minutes?
No, sir.
All in favor of accepting the minutes of August 29th, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Minutes are accepted. Okay. President's comments. Good evening and welcome to everyone joining us tonight for this regular monthly board meeting, whether you're attending in person, watching live, or catching the replay on YouTube. This past week, Southwest Florida faced Hurricane Helene. I'd like to extend my thanks to the associate staff for their diligent work on preparing Sandoval's common areas for the storm and for quickly restoring normalcy, allowing events like Hispanic Heritage Night to proceed as planned. On September 19th, Sandoval hosted 9 out of the 10 candidates running for the Cape Coral City Council. I hope this provided valuable insight for the community as we approach the election, now just 5 weeks away. As we mentioned, Lynn Smith has resigned from the Sandoval Board of Directors effective September 23rd due to personal reasons and her need to relocate from Sandoval. Since moving here almost 3 years ago, Lynn has been an active contributor, serving on both the Risk Management and Finance Committees, and was elected to the board in March of this year. We deeply appreciate her service to the community and wish her and her husband Denton all the best. With Lynn's departure, we now have a vacancy on the board. Later in this meeting, under new business, we will discuss and vote on the process for filling this open seat. We have 3 items under old business and several under new business to address. A monthly update on our compliance efforts with the recent Florida HOA legislation. I'm pleased to report that we're making good progress there. A review and approval of the charter for the Rules Committee. A motion to begin contract negotiations with Precedent Hospitality and Management. This is a significant topic, and we will go into more detail when we reach it on the agenda. Under new business, we will be approving several new committee members and neighborhood representative committee members, looking at revisions to the resident code of conduct, and we also set the process for filling the board vacancy. With that, I'll now turn it over to the treasurer for his report.
You need a mic? No, I'm just turning the mic down.
Which you need?
Okay, let's go into the treasury report. Year-to-date incomes under budget. Year-to-date home sales continues ahead of forecast. We currently have 66 homes sold and the forecast was only 55. Expenses are under budget and the Intrafund cash services account is operational. We've been paying Juniper and Vera, Solitude, and St. Morant out of that, and we're going to transfer additional funds and additional vendors. Total reserve funds balance as of 9/22 is $3,851,475. The PPP balance is $238,418. And the third balance is $3,612,660. And the year-to-date market yield is 3.5%. Reserve spend. First quarter spend was $46,697. Second quarter spend is $117,936. And year-to-date spend is $239,668. Other items, the due to from account has been partially corrected. We have transferred $243,000, and additional reconciliation will take place during the month of September. Hurricane Helene will cause additional expenses with Juniper for post-storm cleanup. We're still meeting with the Associate VP of Operations for ongoing review of financials. His interest earned on the Fifth Third account is lower than expected. Operating and income expenses have no red flags. Operating expense positive year-to-date variance, and return on investment is lower than planned. Major expenses, neighborhood landscaping and common landscaping are higher because it includes mulch and tree trimming that takes place later in the year. I know that in a week or two they're going to start spreading the mulch, and I believe the tree trimming will take place in November. Contracted services slightly over due to lakes issue, and insurance is a positive variance due to premium expense lower than what was expected. Reserve expenses, it isn't in too bad a shape. The only thing on this slide that's bad, and it's going to be this way for the rest of the year, is irrigation repair. That we've had a number of issues with irrigation repair, from the original controllers needing to be replaced, and then we've had some lightning strikes that have taken some of them out also. Year-to-date operating balance, total assets $3,963,153, and that includes the building valuation of $2,412,528. Reserve balance sheet, total assets $3,472,351. Delinquencies. It still follows the quarterly pattern where the beginning of the quarter is highest, then declines as each quarter proceeds, or as each month proceeds. We continue to see a decline in delinquency amounts. August 2023, it was 81,816, and this month it's 65,414. Hurricane Ian assessment. Right now, we have 85% of the residents have paid in full. Residents that have not made any payments have received a second warning letter. If the payment is not received by October 10th, those accounts will be on the agenda for the October board meeting to start assessing additional penalties. And this is the reserve spend sheet. Year-to-date spend plan through June, 239,668. Discretionary reserve spend $6,261 over budget. The total spend plan is $24,454 under budget. And that's my report. Does anybody have any questions?
Just one comment, Dave, or two comments. First one's under contracted services. Also, one of the things driving the negative variance is the initial payment to the internet contractor. Because that wasn't in the budget, so that would have been under contract.
I thought that was on the other professional
Is
services.
that under other professional services? Okay, my mistake then. Okay. And then the to from, those are all balance sheet reconciliations. There's no actual cash being
Oh, yes,
it changed in the accounts.
correct. They need the journal entries.
Yeah. Any other questions by board members? Okay, thank you, Dave. All right. We have two violations to consider tonight. I'm going to do each one separately instead of as a bulk, as a group. The first one is account number 2888945. I'm a motion that we will assess a $100 fine to this account for the penalty stated in the package. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of assessing a $100 fine on account 2888945, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The next one to consider is account 2873853. Again, making a motion to do a $100 fine. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of a $100 fine on 2873853, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. There. The next item on the agenda is the general manager's report.
Okay. For the month of September, we had 63 violation letters go out, 47 friendly reminders, 8 violations, 4 intent of fines, and 2 hearings. We also had 5 gate strikes and recovered 2. That's significantly down over past months. I'm not sure what it is, but we hope it stays that way or less. As Bill mentioned, on September 26th, the staff prepared for Hurricane Helene. We sustained minimal tree damage, which we're assessing the amount of money to get rid of those trees, and some tiki hut repairs that need to take place. Again, we've asked for quotes for that. Significantly less than the last big wind event that we had. Thank you, Jesus. We're keeping our eye on yet another disturbance, and we hope that disappears. Lightning strikes. This has been a significant issue for us. On August 7th, our first lightning strike hit Greendale, near Greendale. The two street lights in our irrigation system. It was cost to repair the irrigation as well as the tree removal, and we're still waiting for some cost there. On August 27th, our second lightning strike hit near the clubhouse. We lost some IT equipment, and the office was out of commission for a few hours until we got our Skylink up and running. And then the most traumatic of the 3 was September 4th, the third lightning strike hit near the clubhouse, near the pool, right out here. It hit the, there's some feedback coming through, Vic. We good?
Nope. The speaker on the computer.
Now we have to redo this.
Saying it twice.
Is that better?
No.
Nope. How about now? There once was a man from Nantucket. You good? Okay. I still hear this guy Chuck.
Don't like the sound of your own voice there, Chuck.
It's
disturbing.
over there near them, but let's reach out. That's all. We can deal with it.
For all you watching at home, there's some technical issues we're working on.
That's right. It's not the fault of your set.
No.
Shall we
Say something.
count 1, 2, 3? Yeah, it's still echoing.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We shut it off.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
How's your computer?
All right. I think I left off on lightning strike number 3.
Yep.
It hit over here. September 4th. Lightning struck out here by the playground. Electricity came into the pool via the exit gate into the Pelican building, traveled through the ceiling down into the other building, and damaged a significant amount of Envira equipment. To this date, we still have some equipment that we are waiting for parts. The irrigation system out here was damaged. Juniper is working on that. This lightning strike damaged the Envira system to the point where the board gave approval to provide overtime for the security staff here to watch the clubhouse and Pelican building after their normal shift because we were unable to secure the doors. That's changed now. We've got the doors secured, but we are still not at 100% capacity. So that was a lot of lightning strikes in a short period of time. And just wanted to, what this proves is as we do the budget, these are things we need to take into consideration because some of these we're going to have some dollar prices that we're not going to be happy with. The playground equipment is continued to be closed as we wait for parts to replace some of the damaged areas there. On our to-do list, well, also the pool slide had been down for a while. That has been replaced and has reopened. On our to-do list, as mentioned, mulch will start. They will start installing mulch October 7th through the 17th. During that time, the tennis court parking lot will be open, but we'll have limited parking as that's the area in which that we stage the bags of mulch and vehicles that they have there. Some people have asked, what are those numbers on the sidewalks that they see out in front of their house? This is a sidewalk inspection process that we're going through, and we're identifying areas that may need some attention. And then once we get our reserve study, we'll cross-check that with the reserve study to see what type of repairs we need to do. And last but not least, the clubhouse doors are scheduled to be repaired on October 7th. This is the last of Hurricane Ian repairs. We've waited quite some time to get those doors, and we can't wait for those doors to be finished. So, any questions?
One question would be, with this last lightning strike,
Do we have any rough estimate of the total cost?
Right now, with Envira, we stand at about $8,500, and there's additional parts that we're waiting on. It seems the more they dig into this, the more they find.
Yeah.
Juniper's a little over $1,000, and the first St. Moritz overtime bill is about $780.
Okay. So
But
we're still well under our deductible to
Yeah.
consider an insurance claim then.
Yeah, all three of which there might be additional bills.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions for the general manager? Okay, thank you, Chuck. Next item on the agenda is old business. First item under old business is the monthly report on association's compliance with the Florida 2024 HOA legislation. Beth Ann, can you give your report, please?
Sure. The good news is that out of the 35, as you mentioned, 35 items, we are now in compliance with 30. I'm just going to mention some that I think outstands. 1 through 3 really have to do with the hurricane and being able to install hurricane protections. And that has been taken care of. Our committee has presented last month at the board meeting their updated guidelines, and it was approved by the board. The remaining ones from 4 through 6 really have to do with the HOA rules and members being able to receive the HOA rules again, and making sure they're on the websites. Again, we're in compliance. One of the things, a date of 10/1/2024, notice had to go out to residents, and Associa prepared this postcard that went out to all homeowners. I don't know if you want to take a look at it. So that puts us in compliance with that.
Mhm.
In terms of the rules, as I said the last time, homeowners, need to make sure that they're getting copies of the handbook and of the rules. Chuck has been sending that out when people come to get stickers at the office. He is handing them out at the new resident, meetings. We haven't had one recently, but they will be handed out, at that. He's also keeping some at the front desk, Chuck?
Yep.
Okay. So we're in really good shape with
Good.
that. In terms of the handbook, the Rules Committee has worked really hard in terms of updating it. And their draft will be submitted to the board either October or November
Good.
for approval. So we'll see what happens with that. All the declarations are on the either to Live Sandoval or Town Square. I just want to go over the few that remain that are pending.
Question,
Sure.
is there anything on Town Square that's not on Live Sandoval?
I don't think so.
Good.
Chuck, do you think so? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, no, they should be,
Yeah.
essentially
We
should be
need
in
that
sync.
one
Yeah.
as a major
Yeah.
repository.
Yeah,
And anything that's being updated, gets put on ours as well as, on Town Square.
Good.
So, okay, one of the items that is, pending, in terms of with, parcels 100 and more, notice an agenda of any scheduled member meetings. And this has to be completed by January 2025. The notice must be placed 14 days prior to the meeting and be posted in plain view on the homepage or on a separate subpage labeled notices, which must be conspicuously visible and linked from the homepage.
Right.
Okay, when these items are available, the notices will then be placed on Live Sandoval's webpage along with Town Square, and linked to the elections webpage, because a lot of that is not going to, it's gonna be hard to put that down now. Let's see, what else is pending? A member who makes a written request for a detailed accounting of their accounts must receive such information with 15 business days of receipt of that request. The member may not make another request for 90 calendar days. Failure to respond within 15 business days constitute a waiver of any outstanding fines which are more than 30 days past due and for which the association has not given prior written notice. Associate must implement an administrative procedure and a form to comply with this requirement. That's what's, and then will be published on Live Sandoval and be able to also be printed out from that webpage. The other one that's pending is basically directors needing to take CEUs, continued CEUs, and certifications every 4 years. What needs to happen with that is a form needs to be created, and then it needs to be posted for each member, how much each member has completed, and the title of what has been completed. So the CEUs and the certification of the certification that you
Right.
need to do
Right.
to be on the board, that needs to be updated continuously, and that form is really important. Once that form is created, Denise will post it on the website.
CDU, is that continuous?
Continuing
education?
education
Education,
units,
right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, speaking of which, a notice came out from Becker about a good CU eligible course about this.
Yeah, of course, you can take it
It
in
was,
segments here.
it was one, no, I did it in one day. It was wonderful. It was very, I had done one already when I first became on the board. But I did this one and it was so much better. It was really
good.
worthwhile,
Good.
to take it again and just, be able to,
The one the one I was thinking of just came out in the email today, and this is related to the federal requirement that we have to provide financial disclosure information.
yeah,
Because there's a litigation relative to whether or not a board member have to provide the kind of personal financial information. So but there's a seminar on that that just got announced. I'll forward it to everybody on the
Okay,
board.
that's helpful to know.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, the other one that's pending is the Rules Committee, and that's what I said before in terms of updating the handbook, and posting it. And again, that's gonna be done in October, November meeting. And I think that's it. So we are really, in good shape, in terms of being in compliance. Any questions?
No, great job.
I just have one question.
Sure.
This form to track CEU credit compliance. Is Denise expecting someone to create that form, or are they gonna create it in the
I
communications?
believe I have Denise's notes. I believe she is waiting for Associa to provide that with, for,
All right, so I'll close the loop with close the loop with the
Okay.
communications
All right.
committee on that at our committee meeting in 2 weeks.
and I'm setting up a
Right.
meeting with Denise to go over all the
Okay.
stuff that she has questions about in terms of posting. So
'Cause
that was one of
it's
the
a relatively
items.
simple form. I mean, I think
Yeah,
we could
yeah.
probably whip it up in like 15 minutes.
Absolutely,
So, okay,
absolutely.
all right, okay.
That's
We'll
it.
get that done.
Anything else? Chuck, any of that can,
No, more or less, I'm trying to schedule something with the Rules Committee so I can actually review some historical things that I found in the top dresser drawer there of past rules that were changed or were in the process of being changed. I'm not sure if they were implemented, and some ideas that I'd like to share with the Rules Committee.
I think, I'm sure we'll approve, her addition to the committee, but one of our new members has a great book of old, I mean, she really has
Oh.
bylaws.
Wow.
Well done.
Okay,
Somebody, Laura Benoit.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right.
that's it.
Good. Any other questions or comments regarding HOA legislation compliance? Okay. The next item of old business is review and vote on the charter for the Rules Committee. Andrew, do you have a motion to present?
Yes, sir. Just a reminder to the community, April of 2024, the board approved the creation of a standing rules committee. We have been a bit delayed in getting our charter to the association for consideration. We have drafted and have that here presented to the board for consideration and approval. Just want to give the opportunity to make the motion, and if I could have a second, I would appreciate that.
I'll second it.
John seconds it. Thank you very much. Now I open this dialogue to anybody who has any comments that we need to make changes to.
My comments were the first cut. I had some questions about it, sent them to Andrew, and they were fixed immediately. So I hardly approve this. I think it's well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciated the comments. There was certainly some areas that I think needed clarifications.
Good. Do we have any other comments or questions for Andrew on this motion? Okay. Ready to call the question? All in favor of approving the charter for the Rules Committee, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? It's passed. Okay. All right. The next item under old business is a follow-up from the board subgroup on management company recommendation. Let me just pull this out here. All right, so first let me read a motion. Whereas the current agreement between the association and Associate Gulf Coast expires on November 30th, 2024, and on May 30th, 2024, the Association Board of Directors authorized the Association President, Vice President, and Treasurer to form a subgroup of the Association Board with the task to evaluate options and solicit proposals from select management companies. Be it resolved, the Association Board of Directors authorizes the Association President, Vice President, and Treasurer to initiate contract negotiations with Precedent Hospitality and Management, LLC, with the intent to have Precedent Hospitality and Management become the management company operating on behalf of the association on or before December 1st, 2024. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Okay. Before we have other comments from the board, I'd just like to go through a few things. Starting back in May, John and Dave and I came to the conclusion that unfortunately, when you look at management companies, there's two aspects to it. One is the on-site staff, which we have day-to-day contact with and the most relationship with. And the other part is the back office financial processing, payment processing operations of a management company. And as a result of that, we came to the conclusion that the Sandoval community was pleased with the current on-site staff and was not anxious to see a turnover of the staff. With the ongoing challenges that we experienced from Associa, it was not in our interest to negotiate a long-term renewal contract with Associa, as we wanted to see if a one-year extension would be the best road to go in order to evaluate whether or not Associa's back office issues have been resolved to our satisfaction. We also thought it was prudent to revisit previous proposals that were reviewed by the association back in the 2021 timeframe that led to the selection of Associa. And we did, and thanks to John, who had quite an extensive archive of that analysis information, Dave and I got a little bleary-eyed going through it, but it was a good starting point for us to understand what was the reasoning and what was the analysis process that the association went through in 2021 to ultimately select Associa. And from that review, we decided to engage two of the finalists from that process. One was the Castle Group out of Estero, and the other was Precedent Hospitality and Management out of basically they're headquartered in Clearwater, but with an office in Fort Myers. After getting solicited proposals from Associa for a one-year contract extension, and getting proposals from both the Castle Group and from Precedent, we looked at the different options and we came to the conclusion that we thought it was in the best interest of the association to recommend that we initiate contract discussions with Precedent. We found that they had a back office operation that we think was more suited to the type of community that we have. Very impressed with the payment processing options that they offer to the residents or owners of the community. And I felt that, or we saw that they have a automated violations process that would improve our ability to track and speed up the process of tracking and resolving any violation issues within the community. They have their own board voting system, so we believe we'll be able to save some costs there and not needing the Becker voting system for board elections going forward. And overall, we believe that this was a company whose business objectives were to support communities like Sandoval. One of the other things that were part of our discussions is that not wanting to drive a turnover of the staff, we have worked out some preliminary agreements with Precedent, assuming we sign a contract with them, that would offer the existing employees the ability to continue working as part of the Sandoval community. A lot of this is still to be worked through as we work through the contract process, but what we're looking for tonight is the authorization to start those contract negotiations, get our association council engaged. I will also plan on getting risk management to give a view of the Precedent contract, and work with Associa on resolving the termination clauses in their contract if we all agree to go forward with that in the month of October. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. John?
Not a question, but yeah, I'm guilty of being part of the process going back for years, investigating multiple management companies. And when I was part of that group, we really didn't give a lot of heavy thought to the financial process. We thought everybody could do that pretty well. As it turns out, that's probably that is clearly the most important thing that a management company can do for us, and do it well, because we have a lot of money here at stake, and it's getting even more important as we grow, and we have these problems like hurricanes. The when you look at the companies we've been involved with since I've been here, it's been Pope, who handled the finance during Taylor Morrison days. Then they stayed with us, and then First Service, which was lacking, we changed to Associa, and Associa has not lived up to their contract in terms of how they do the financials. I went through I've gone through the references of all three periods, references given to us. The one that's absolutely unique about the references from precedent is the financial service is second to none. Flawless. Okay. None has had a problem with them. I think one guy said, well, we did get the financial reports on the 16th rather than the 15th. Well, we want ours with the 20th, and they've only done that 4 times this year. So I'm just saying that from a standpoint of running a business, a very important business like ours, this company appears to be the best. That's all.
And this company also manages large HOAs
Very large.
as well.
And-
And that's,
Yeah, one of the big
That's
issues
important.
is that even when you talk to associate employees, you'll say that they lost something when they consolidated all of their accounting into Dallas because you don't get that touch.
right,
But one of the ways that a large company saves money is by pulling in resources, consolidating them in one place.
right.
And unfortunately, the customer suffers. In this case, we have a much closer relationship with the finance person. There's a full-time finance person in Fort Myers, and the senior vice president that we call Lola. She's available by phone anytime
And located in Clearwater.
to Dave or
Who's in Naples?
no.
They also have
no,
they have an office in Naples
Naples.
that
she lives in
for the
Clearwater.
communities in Naples.
Okay,
And they're gonna be here every month.
wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it's also worth mentioning because I think this is good news for homeowners and something that is always frustrating to homeowners is that sync system where
Oh, yeah.
homeowners can
Yeah.
come to the front desk.
Yeah.
They have a scanner for checks.
Right.
And so it makes it much more simpler than you still can go, is Town Square, they're still there? Do they?
No,
No,
Okay.
they have their own system.
So you don't have to mail that into, you have options in regards to paying your
Also,
assessment.
the financial system is much more accessible. Our treasurer can go directly into it.
Right.
Our general manager can go directly into it and make changes and corrections. Whereas now we have to go through multiple people to get things done.
And that's important in regards
Yes.
to a lot of the HOA legislation. It'll
right,
be,
right.
the information will be on the website a lot quicker than it, because if it's timely, then Dave can, Dave can send it on to Denise.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I thought, you know.
We'll sit out there watching, but I think.
Right, nobody's perfect.
Dave, what do you think?
I want to switch. I mean, they do, when they showed us their reporting system and what reports are available, it seems like rather than me going to Chuck and saying, Chuck, do you have a report that'll tell me this? I'll be able to go in, look at it myself and run it myself. And that will make Chuck's life a lot easier and it'll make my life a lot easier.
Also, it won't delay the payment process to our vendors as much. That will be a smoother, quicker process.
Yes.
And we won't have late situations that we've had.
Just a couple more comments. Some of the other things that impressed me is that right from the beginning, they recognized that an association like Sandoval has a significant amount of funds in its accounts. So by default, they set up the operating account and the reserve account in an intra-fi account. So we've been struggling with that as a secondary account for the community to protect our monies. But by default, they have that as the standard operating procedure. So from day one, we will have our money protected within FDIC limits through the IntraFi cash service system. The other thing is that on balance, their transaction fees are lower than what the residents have been paying now. They'll offer a few more options. They offer the same set of options by check. They'll send out coupon books. You can do online payments. You can do ACH payments. all the various options that are available today, but I think you'll find that their processing appears to be much smoother for this size community. So I think there will be some positive impact to the residents once we get through a transition period. The other point is that we did a preliminary financial analysis, and when you look at a combination of annualized payroll with the burden that every association imposes on the payroll staff and the management fee, there's essentially an $8,000 difference on a year basis between associate extension offer and the president contract offer that we have, proposal offer, I should say.
Now, when going through the negotiations process, are we looking at continuing a 2 or 3 year contract?
They're asking for a 3-year contract, so but we'll put some guarantees in it relative to termination.
Cancellation clause.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we
Like
got,
I did
yeah,
with
yeah.
landscape. Right?
Yeah. And then the other thing is that we still have to do some negotiation with associate to work through a termination process should we ultimately execute with precedent. Okay.
Sounds good.
Any other questions or comments? I just want to emphasize once again that our decision making was driven a lot by what we saw in the back office. We're working hard to establish a transition agreement and process so that existing staff will continue, so that faces will stay the same, and that the people that the residents deal with will be familiar, except for some visitors that'll be coming in from Fort Myers once a month to help with any issues or questions that the owners may have. Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I think it's very important that this association not get in the habit of rotating its management staff locally. I totally understand that the driver of this decision is the back office side. As much as we can do to retain our on-site team, I think it's important for the consistency of the community as a whole.
Yes, I mean, and we have to be very honest that there are some constraints in the existing associate contract that we have to work around that could impose some. Essentially, the association will have to make a payment to associate of some amount in order to settle this process. And that'll be part of the negotiation process, is to work through that agreement. And we've already started our side of those discussions with our council to sort of put together a way that we want to have these discussions with Associa.
So can you said something in regards to once a month staff could be on site, and you said with home. Can you just explain that a little bit more?
So one of the things that because they have a fully staffed office in Fort Myers,
Right.
and they focus on large lifestyle communities like ours, they make a point to visit every community on a monthly basis and set up time that if the owners have issues with the payment
They'll
processing
be
system, so like that,
available.
they are available.
Okay, great.
Plus, obviously, we will probably do a lot more high touch activities in the early phases of the transition.
Okay.
And they have a 60-day transition plan that Dave and I and John have already reviewed, that once the contract's signed, we sort of kick into high gear.
Nothing else changes in regards to legal representation. How does that affect?
No, because we separately contract with Becker and Polikoff as our association counsel at this point, so that won't change.
Okay.
None of our vendors will change. Juniper, CenturyLink, whomever, St. Moritz, whoever we have as vendors today, they'll get transitioned into the AP processing system. None of their contracts will change. They'll still get paid what they've been contracted to be paid. So what will change will be the monthly payments going to the association, and there'll be a slight difference in the budget associated with the payroll line because of the overhead, because of their overhead charges.
Explain that a little bit more, Bill.
So every management company, what they do is they expect the association to cover not only the direct cost of the employee's salary, but they also allocate a percentage of the salary as overhead
Okay,
to cover their management of the staff, the HR processing, the tax
Okay.
form preparation,
okay,
W-2s, that types of things. In addition to that, there is a straight pass-through of the healthcare cost that is paid by the employer. So it's as if we were directly employing them. It would not cost us any more or any
okay.
less. But it's very typical that they basically say, this is what it costs to keep this employee on with healthcare, and we pay the cost. We pay the full freight, I should say.
Very important in keeping our staff.
Yeah, yeah,
If you, in talking to the other associations, those that were happy were those that had a good gym and staff. We want to keep our good gym and staff.
and I've heard that from,
Yeah.
residents that they
Yeah, sure.
really,
sure.
It's key.
yeah,
It's key.
absolutely.
That's last thing is we want
Let's vote.
rotations.
Yes, and that's why we're trying to do, and also we're looking in this, if with these contract discussions, to avoid having to deal with this down the road if we have to,
Yeah.
unfortunately have to make a change 3 years down the road.
Right.
One of the guys, one of the presidents said he's been there for 8 years and they've had them for 8 years and are quite happy.
Wonderful.
That was the property in Naples.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. With that, are we ready to vote on the motion to start contract negotiations?
I have one last question.
Beth Ann,
And I
go for it.
don't know if you mentioned this already. In terms of their attrition rates, do we know how? Only I say that because we had issues with Associate when their attrition rate. When their finance person left and having to be replaced, do we know what their management staff, how long they're staying?
I don't have those details, but I think
Okay.
if you look at the references and John got,
The other thing is the main accounting person, Lola, that we dealt with, she's been there for years.
Okay, good. Okay,
I mean,
good.
I believe she told us she is now an officer and she
Okay.
has no intention of leaving.
Okay, great.
And-
Wonderful.
She makes herself available to us anytime.
So that is the most critical part, as you said, John.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. So I'm going to just want to make sure you're all set.
I'm done.
Okay. Good. So I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor of the motion to start contract negotiations with Precedent Hospitality and Management, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay. I will inform Precedent by email correspondence tomorrow of this vote, and we'll start the process. And just want to give the board a heads up that we may, in order to get, if we are successful with this process, we may have a one topic board meeting before the regular October board meeting to review the contract and approve its signature so we can move forward. And we can't obviously send any formal termination notice until we have the successor in place.
Got it.
All right. All right, good. Next item under, we're moving to new business, is we're going to approve new members of the Covenants Committee. We have applications from Kathy Chaplin and Linda Heil. Do I have a motion to accept them as members of the Covenants Committee?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Second.
second.
Who's second?
Any question or comment?
John.
Second.
Jen second. So all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Okay. The next item under new business is to approve Lori Bernard becoming a member of the Rules Committee. I will make a motion to accept Lori Bernard on the Rules Committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? John, you made a point earlier about her,
Well, yeah, when I became president, she gave me this book this thick of all the bylaws going back for years. She really knows this stuff.
so you're in trouble, Andrew.
Yeah, yeah.
No, Lori definitely has
Oh, yeah,
brings
yeah.
a
She's good.
amount of institutional
Yeah,
knowledge that
right.
will be very helpful for the
Good.
committee as we.
She
review
did a great,
documents.
she's no longer on the neighborhood rep. She used to chair that as well, but
Right.
She has stepped away from that.
yes, right.
Right.
She has always done a great job. And that's a group that's
Sure.
quite large and
Okay, so I'll call the vote. All in favor of Lori Bernard joining the Rules Committee, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay. So there seems to be one item of confusion on the agenda about Vlad Karasikoff with his application paperwork. So we will put that on hold until the next meeting. Vlad has already participated in at least one or two of our ongoing meetings that I'll talk about a little bit later. And we will still continue to have him part of the discussion, although he won't be a voting member until we get this approved formally. Okay. The next item under new business is we have a number of residents joining the neighborhood rep committee. I'm going to list each name as I understand it, and then we'll just vote, discuss and vote them as a group. So the motion is to approve Nancy Pierce, Valerie Moore, Ruth Scheiger, Christine Peterson, Donna Dunker, Nancy Stanfield, Patricia Policiano, Stu Seckler, Debbie Ott, Joe Flanagan, Anthony Cafaro, Valerie Zaliski, Joan Bowen, Diane DeVanitin, and Sue Duffy as members of neighborhood reps. And I apologize if I mangled any of those last names. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of accepting this group onto the neighborhood rep committee, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay. All right. The next item under new business is revisions to the resident code of conduct. We have a motion offered by John Elkins. John, can you read your motion, please?
Yeah, before I read the motion, let me explain why. Okay. Rather than have discussion. There, in the Sandoval rules, made June 23rd of 2019, the board came up with a code of conduct rule. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but part of the rule, there seemed to be a confusion that this rule had the association and the board responsible for the conduct of people in neighbors' homes and yards. Okay, and that's not true. So the amendment, the change to the motion I'm making clarifies that so that we are only dealing with association property, common property, and amenities and so forth. So paragraph 2 of the conduct will be totally replaced by the following language. When on association premises, amenities or common property, owners, residents, and their guests and invitees are at all times required to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. Displays of temper or other discourteous conduct, disrespect, shown to association employees, community volunteers, vendor employees, or fellow homeowners and residents, and actions resulting in physical damage to association property are typical but exclusive examples of improper behavior, which could result in disciplinary action, including reprimand, fine, and/or common facility use right suspension.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Discussion on the motion?
I think this adds clarity.
Yes.
I don't think we want to get into the
No.
business of policing the individual
We have a case
streets.
where whose dog poop is this on whose yard? We really don't want to get into that.
Clean up your dog food.
Yes. So just for clarification, the original, appropriate conduct policy was approved by the board on June 23rd, 2019. And this is amending the second paragraph of what is currently on Live Sandoval as the code of conduct for residents. Okay.
Who is going to draft this?
I did. Sure.
We'll
No,
have
no, no.
to,
I mean, redraft the actual
Oh,
resolution. I'm
so
sorry.
this is incorporated into.
I mean, the actual
paragraph
conduct policy.
Yes.
If we can't find the original Word document, we'll have to type this up word
Yes.
for word from again and
Other
post it
than-
to Live Sandoval.
Yep. Other than paragraph 2, which will get the new
Yeah,
language
right.
that we approve it tonight.
Okay.
All right.
So any more questions or discussion on this? All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion to make the change to paragraph 2 of the resident code of conduct policy, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Change passes. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay. The next item under new business is to fill the board vacancy. Whereas, as of September 23rd, 2024, a vacancy exists with the Sandoval Community Association Board and the Sandoval governing document, the amended and restated bylaws of the Sandoval Community Association adopted July 17, 2014 by the declarant pursuant to the powers in section 6.6 subpart A of the bylaws, section 4.5 specifies the process for filling a board vacancy. Be it resolved, the board of directors will request any interested member of the association in good standing with the association to submit their interest in being considered for membership on the board of directors to fulfill the remainder of the vacant term via email to the board president and association general manager. At the October 24th, 2024 board meeting, all applicants will be considered and the board of directors will then conduct a vote to select the replacement board member. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Do we have anybody that volunteered yet?
No one has responded to the email. Basically what my intention is that once an individual identifies themselves as being interested, I'll ask them to essentially fill out the committee form, which is a good starting point for giving us information. I might ask them for either a connection to their LinkedIn page or their professional resume if they have one, their CV. And then I'll circulate it to all the board members, and I will put the onus on the candidate to reach out to each board member to introduce themselves and to have a discussion, a one-on-one discussion, so that you could assess that person's viability for the board.
One question. Oh, go ahead.
No, just okay.
One question. How is this being, how is the community being notified of this so that we're likely to get people who are interested? Like, where are we posting this?
So the first notice went out to the whole community via email communication on the 23rd when the vacancy existed. It was also posted to social media. I will make a point to send out another note and reminder. Plus, I'll ask Chuck to add a reminder into his weekly correspondence for the next couple weeks. And then we'll have to look and we'll make an assessment by around the 20th of October to see what candidates we will be considering.
I guess my concern is there are lots of people, as we know, that don't open up their email. They may not be on social media. Have we thought of the idea, although I know that this would incur an expense? Have we thought of any other ways, maybe mail, to notify the community? My concern is I just want to make sure that the community is fully aware of this vacancy, and so for those who might be interested, they can come.
I mean,
As
certainly,
suggestions, I don't know.
My opinion is that if somebody is interested in this position, they're gonna be paying attention to their email so they know what's going on in the community. And those that don't read emails, would you even want them on the board?
No,
I
but-
mean, really?
Yeah.
Shout out to everything we go to. Yeah, any
Well, yeah.
event,
Coffee and
coffee conversation,
conversations,
let's,
hopefully neighborhood rep, I'm sure, you know,
I,
Make an
and I will
announcement at
be at-
neighborhood
and
rep.
We'll be in the neighborhood rep meeting minutes,
Right.
because I will
Right.
make that a point to
Right.
discuss that on Wednesday at the meeting
Right.
and make sure that it
Life
gets
happens.
distributed.
There are
Yes,
people working,
Yes.
that people have children, you know, they're coming home from work, coming home from school, doing things, cooking, life happens.
right.
And again, I hear you, Dave, maybe somebody in that situation wouldn't have the time, but I just think that whatever we can do to get a good candidate, could be helpful.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I just would encourage every board member in conversations within their social circles in the community to discuss this opening. To get interest, I think it's important to get diverse views on the board. So I'm hopeful we get some interesting candidates that we get to consider.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to call this motion for a vote. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay. All right. Committee reports. The first committee report is the ad hoc internet committee report. Over the past month, the internet ad hoc committee has done two major steps in the process to prepare a recommendation. The first step is that we received detailed proposals from 5 internet service providers that are capable of servicing the community. One of the providers is CenturyLink/Quantum, the incumbent, and 4 other vendors, Bluestream, Comcast/Xfinity, Summit Broadband, and Hotwire Communications. Thank you. So sometimes I was having a
No,
senior
you're
moment.
good. You're good.
Good. And we then looked at their proposals and then narrowed the list down from 5 to 4, and had a detailed Zoom hour and a half to 2 hour review with each of these vendors to review their proposal, focusing on key issues like reliability, customer service, auxiliary services, and things of that nature. What the impact would be to the community for a construction process, and basically making sure that we were on the same page with them in terms of what they were proposing from a technology perspective. From that round of Zoom meetings, we then conducted an internal internet ad hoc committee meeting and prepared a set of follow-up requests for these vendors to fine-tune their proposals. And we gave them to next week to prepare those follow-up responses. The Internet Ad Hoc Committee is meeting next week to review those responses. And from that, we'll be working over the next several weeks to prepare a recommendation for the board for the discussion to start contract negotiations with 1 or 2 of the vendors. One of the items that we will probably schedule is, if we get it down to 2 contenders, we probably will schedule meetings like we did with the landscape vendors for the board members to have a chance to review their proposals individually. If we're down to 1, we'll make sure that we have at least that 1 vendor do a proposal review with all of the board members before we put it up for a vote at the end of October. And so our goal is that at the October meeting to present a recommendation to start contract negotiations with a recommended vendor.
Yeah, the more opportunity we have for the residents to know what's happening
Yeah.
and try to influence the better.
Yes.
Because everyone has an opinion about this.
Everyone has an opinion, and
Yeah.
the good news is that market rates being what they are, I think we're going to see a reasonable, a not unreasonable increase for any of these vendors. All these vendors are expecting some increase over what we're paying today, which is because all of them will be making infrastructure investments into the community.
Well,
I think it's very important
Yeah.
to note that Those infrastructure improvements are not going to be done on a one-off basis, homeowner by homeowner. It does
Of
take,
course.
it takes this type of
Yeah.
bulk contract
Yeah.
to get that upgrade that needs to. And I would remind the community, we stand with the need of, most of us are now streaming our entertainment. That is a huge, huge consumption on the bandwidth of the existing network. And secondly, as companies continue to integrate AI into more of their activities, that too is going to consume bandwidth. So we do need an upgrade to the system. And as much as I have, like I think John, you do, a backup that's wireless, that's not going to be a solution as a whole for most homeowners as we.
I understand. That's why I think it's important. Those of us who are paying for backup, yeah, I pay $55 a month for backup. Many people are paying that much or more. And I only use it when they have an outage.
Mhm.
So if our vendor can have an alternate path so that we have a more reliable uptime, I can get away from that service
Exactly.
and maybe only use my phone as a hotspot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So all that will actually save money for those of us who do it.
Long term, yes,
Yep.
yes. Also, yeah, so I don't want to, I don't want to jump the gun because we're still waiting to get these follow-up responses from the vendors, and then we'll be able to do a true apples and apples comparison in terms of their reliability, redundancy, and price offers to the community. And then we can work from there to fine tune our recommendations.
Agreed.
Okay. Any other questions on internet ad hoc? Okay. Communications Committee is continuing to work on updating Live Sandoval to be in compliance with the HOA legislation changes. There's been they shifted out the publication date for the next newsletter, and we'll be meeting week from tomorrow to or a week from Thursday, I should say, to update on the process for the newsletter and for all the other updates that need to go into Life Sandoval. Okay. Our committee.
ARC met twice this month, as normally on the first and third Saturdays of the month. We had about 20 new applications between the two meetings, about 10 each. Had about 7 or 8 total amended applications to consider. And in most cases, when our homeowners are given a denial for the reasons stated, they are correcting it ideally by the next meeting and we're getting them approved. So hopefully getting their applications resolved and approved within a 30-day period at most. Again, we will meet the first Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, first Saturday of the month. Rules in the next on that list.
Yep. Rules does not.
We met on the third Tuesday, where we normally meet on the second Tuesday, which we will meet next week on October 9th, pardon me, 8th, October 8th, that's the Tuesday. We went through the first half of the resident handbook, doing a review of that, updating language as necessary, maintaining most of the language, but there are some things that have gotten into conflict with changes made. We will be reviewing the second half of the document, and ideally that is once we get that complete, we will address some of the last open item concerns of the new Florida legislation that went through, and should ideally, as was noted, have draft review for the board in the month of October, with the latest getting that for approval in November. Ideally, if we can get it done in a timely manner, it may be an October document. But again, we want to give the board the opportunity to review the language again and make suggestions if there's necessity, like we did on the charter. So that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any questions for Andrew? Okay. Social Committee report.
Social is busy as bees, as you might gather for October, because it's the big month of Halloween. But there's not just Halloween. Of course, they just had the Latin night, which I understand had really good attendance.
It was
Yes,
a lot of fun.
I was very
Yeah.
pleased.
Yeah.
I think only 17 had signed up in advance, and I think there were 3 times that many at least that
Yeah.
attended. That's wonderful. Right. Events coming up. Well, they said Latin night. There's a card making class for Halloween cards. I don't know if anybody did Halloween cards, and then we got Veterans Day cards, and got Murder Mystery Night on the 11th, the costume contest and dance on the 18th. So that looked like a lot of fun. And then trunk or treat and haunted house on the week of the 28th.
Yeah.
So the haunted house will be here. And of course, Halloween night, remind everyone that get your wristbands from Jessica. This year, they're going to be $6.
Okay. And
Social amenities?
yes,
Amenities,
amenities,
dog
Jim,
park?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, well, as you know, we made a dog park a subcommittee of amenities, and they usually operate separately. Now they've met together, which is good because there's some overlap there. And amenities have been working on a number of things. One big issue is these chairs.
I started
As you know, that every week somebody falls through one or it breaks.
Jessica
Yeah,
sat in
and-
one the
and-
other night, broke.
Now, have you seen we had two here at last
Yes,
meeting,
yeah,
but
they're
they're still over
still
here. They're not bad. The cushions were not bad. Yeah, okay, good. They're smart enough to get in one of those, aren't you? Um, we're looking at buying 125 of those,
Good.
and we're working on with Dave on where to put that in the budget. There's also a proposal to have a place for chair storage, and that we haven't gotten the numbers yet, but that's one of our issues to looking at the reserve. There, those are the two main issues. There's still some thought of putting the fan in over the tennis court area, the pickleball court area, and there. I think we argued a little over the price of that, aren't we?
Yeah, because what I originally heard,
Close $500. It's not $500.
yeah, now it jumped, but we
Well,
have to find out.
we'll have to get
Discrepancy.
we'll get to Dave well in time of the budget process for getting that done. Okay.
And
That's
that was a resident brought activity, so.
residents wanted it, and initially we thought it would not be worthwhile because there wasn't the structure to hold it. Yet Brian assures us that it will, and we're worried about the electrical connection, and we fix that by making it a plug. So if you have a storm coming, you unplug it.
Cricket.
So those safety issues are not there. So the fan can be done. If we get it at a reasonable price, it will be done. The next thing in the dog parks, there are a number of issues. The dog park committee had a big hill to climb because no one had thought about the dog parks in terms of planning for them for years. The number one thing that dog owners really want is water. And so, and Brian's working on that to get water into each of the 4 sections of the dog park, the big and little dog section of each park. Next, a lot of people really hate the ugly chairs that are
Oh,
sitting out
gosh,
there.
yeah.
Right. And the reason they're there is so people sit there while their dogs are playing. So we're putting in for now and budget for next year 7 benches to go in the 2 dog parks, and the nice benches like you see along the Esplanade. And then if anybody does bring a chair to the dog park after that, take it out.
Yeah.
Bring it. If you bring it, take it home. Okay. The other issues, there's a couple of trees that our landscape committee has generously said they can put in there for the that's for the Barclay Park, which is the one near the main entrance, and then there's some more coming for Happy Paws, but we're going to have a plan for trees coming in, a couple of them this year, and the rest will be in the budget for next year. And that's pretty well it.
I didn't want to, I wanted to wait until you were finished.
Okay.
In regards to the chairs, the 125, is it the purpose of those 125 to kind of like test them out
No,
to see how they,
The reason-
because one of the things that I would be concerned about in terms of that chair, I've sat in that chair, it's very comfortable. But I wonder because of the vinyl, if it would rip from people like maybe keys in the pocket or jeans. So is there something we can do on a trial basis to see how they wear and tear?
I don't know. I've got 4 chairs like that at home. I've had
Okay.
for probably 15 years. But
Would it
I
be
don't
smart though? Would it be smart for us to,
have a wear test.
yeah, like maybe for
I don't know, but then let me check on
No,
that.
I mean here in the Pelican, because they will get so much use.
Well,
And I'm sure that these chairs, nobody thought that they wouldn't
but
last.
they have a firm bottom under them, which is
Okay.
one thing. And the other thing is that we're looking at ways to hang them. And there's some dispute of whether we can modify these racks
Right,
or get additional racks. And
Right.
the additional racks aren't that expensive. The reason for the 125, the reason for the 125 is what's the maximum number of people we've seen sitting in here at
Okay.
any one time? It's a little over 100. So the 125 would give us a cushion to say we have enough chairs there, and then we'll then phase out the old ones
okay, all right,
as they fail, probably
Okay.
about 25 at a time in order to get a decent price.
okay.
We're looking at about $25 a piece.
They're very comfortable. I actually sat
Yeah,
on it
yeah.
the other night. They are comfortable and your back is in a good position. They are very comfortable. That was my only.
That'll be part of the
concern.
budget process that we'll get another vote on. Okay.
Steve's turned out to be the most popular person on the board now.
Yeah, right now.
What's that?
Right now, because everybody wants money.
Oh, yeah, no. David, yeah, we're all buying lunch, things like that. Oh, I'm done.
John.
Strike that.
Yeah.
All right. With Lynn Smith leaving the board, Beth Ann Jose is the interim liaison to safety and security. So Beth Ann, can you give your report, please?
Okay, so the crosswalks being painted was completed. The committee is now working on the 2025 budget. There was some discussion in regards to the Cape Coral Police Department and their response. So Ed Coronado, who sits on the committee, went and met with Chief Sizemore, and they agreed to have a liaison that would be appointed to our association. So hopefully
That's great.
that
That's
that will
very good
make it.
news,
Yeah,
yeah.
he did a real job, a great job on that. Another thing that took up a lot of conversation was looking at traffic mitigation. And one of the things that the survey did reveal is that a lot of people in the community thought speeding was a problem. So what they're looking at is what can be done, and there was discussion about a thermometer on a trial basis. That's the plaque that shows what speed you're going. And it's not meant for violations. That's not the purpose of it. And I just want to make that clear. But it's really about making people more aware of how fast they're going so that they could slow down or be more cognizant of the fact when I go through that gate, I tend to be going this amount of mileage. So that was the thought. But again, they want to make sure it's in sync with the survey. And of course, in terms of it'll be presented to finance. You go being popular again, Dave. This is budget time though. You ask people to give their wish list, so they're doing that. Um, so that's pretty much, I think, with the strategic safety and security. Chuck, do you remember anything else that I'm missing?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, Phil, you were there.
Yeah, I was here.
Okay,
Very good.
all right,
Good summary.
okay.
All right, the next committee report is Lakes Committee. John Elkins is interim liaison in Lynn Smith's departure. John?
You got TBD on here.
So
I told Bill that I would take it on a temporary basis because of my
Yes.
experience with lakes. I don't have a report.
I don't think they've.
I haven't met with them yet, but
Yeah.
I know the problems well. I've kind of kept up, and I know that our chairman there is quite capable of managing that committee. In fact, when I was liaison, I was talking a lot. And she said, "Who's running this, me or you?" So I said, "Okay, Jane, you're running this committee." So yeah, so she's not here to report. She doesn't need to. All right.
All right.
Yeah.
All seriousness, I think the big focus on Lakes Committee is going to be looking at the plan for 2025 in terms of lake erosion mitigation and the costs of that.
Shows is superb.
Has Chuck that? I know that they're the last I knew they were still in the permitting process. Chuck, do you have updates?
Yeah, still in permitting. Yeah, to see Cape Coral or Lee County. permitting is taking a lot longer than they expected.
And I would, as an outsider, still state it. I think we need to come with some type of solution on the invasive species. Beyond, on the invasive species beyond just simply trying to pan fish them out.
We- Every time we get a chance to talk to other associations and even precedent and so forth, the well's dry.
Yeah,
Man. It's hard to find
it's a
anything
challenge.
other than active fishing. The one thing that would probably catch tilapia better than anything else would be netting, and we don't allow that. We might provide some exception basis for someone trained on netting them properly, but you know that would catch a bunch. But try to do it with an angled method. Yeah, it's slow as hell. Yeah.
We're gonna have to cast a larger net to see if we can come up with some different solutions. Is that
Drain them. Hate to say it. Drain them instead of.
That's not
okay?
nice.
That's not.
Right, Jim.
Okay. Anything? Okay. Next is Finance Committee.
Finance Committee, well, as everyone is well aware, we're in the middle of budget season.
Yes.
And right now we're concentrating on the operational side of it. Um, we were supposed to have received the reserve study the middle of this month, and I have yet to see it. And every time I contact the company, they just keep telling me they're working on it and they're behind.
Have they been here?
They've done their initial,
Well,
they
they just haven't written a report.
yeah, they haven't written the report, but we need that report to do the reserve side. So, and as far as the committees, I believe all the committees that are looking for money, I've at least had a conversation with them, but I do not have any final figures, which I know amenities is working on theirs, and I know social's working on theirs, along with lakes and safety and security and landscape.
Right. Gave that to
Yes, what's that?
Medicaid
What's that?
for that trial. I don't know, what do you call it? What do you call that? The panel? Yeah, they looked in to see how much it cost. I know you met with them.
So that's really it for the financial, and then
So just Dave, one question on finance. So you with these setbacks, do you think we're still on track to be able to present the budget for approval in the late October, early November timeframe?
that's what I'm shooting for. I mean, that's what I hope. He keeps telling me next week, and they're located in Texas, so I can't get in the car and drive over and say, "Give it to me."
Yet another Texas operation. Okay.
Okay, so that's really it for financial.
Okay.
Landscaping, I mentioned it before, they're gonna start, Chuck did too, they'll start the mulch in about a week. And then they'll be starting the tree trimming sometime in November. We continue to meet with Juniper twice a month just to review any issues that we're having and try to resolve them. And that is it for landscaping.
Okay. I do not have a report from Covenants. Todd did not provide me with one. So we'll have to skip that this month. I do have a report from Risk Management. Um, Risk Management has been participating in extended Zoom interviews of all the proposers for the bulk internet supplier for Sandoval. Risk Management has also reviewed and provided to the Internet Committee initial comments on all the proposed standard form contracts. Want to thank Bill and the team. He's done a lot of work just sort of doing a first pass review of all those contracts. And they also provided comments on the personal emergency plan that was developed by Jack Pounds and published. So that was the main bulk of their work. And as I mentioned earlier, we will get risk management engaged from an advisory role in the contract process with Precedent.
Are you aware of any conversation further about the community insurance?
No, we're going to have to start working directly with the insurance vendors, insurance agents, Dave's gonna need some basic numbers in order to get at least a basic budget number in place.
On covenants,
Yes.
do we have any significant actions as far as we know in covenants this month?
Not that I'm aware of. Obviously, the two violations that we voted on today,
Yeah.
if they if they do not respond, we'll have the ability to appeal those violations
At the covenants.
at the covenants meeting.
Right.
Yeah. And then I am aware that there are a couple more, at least two more roof violations that we have to start the settlement agreement process with. And they'll probably ultimately end up with into the covenants committee. Okay. Did I answer your question, John?
Yes.
Okay, good. Um, strategic planning, Beth Ann.
So, as you just mentioned, the emergency preparedness plan is now online. We completed it, sent it to risk management. Risk management had some comments. It was incorporated into the plan. I know there was some feedback after it was actually published. And so I welcome anybody who has some feedback. It's a fluid document, so there always might be something that has to be changed, added, deleted. But I would say go through Jack Pounds, who is the chair of that committee, to discuss it with him. But it's online. I actually used it for Helene. I actually printed some stuff out. I'd be curious to see if anybody in the community actually used it. But it's there. It's there, you know. Um, then the meet and greet that we did, out of the 10 candidates who were asked to come, 9 of them came. One was ill, so didn't come. One of the topics that had of great interest um, to the community, for the community, was Hayden Lane. And what would the city take over Hayden Lane? And each candidate was asked that question. I believe 4, might be 5, committed and said yes, that they would be in favor of taking Hayden Lane back. There was one who while was asking, really didn't commit, but then afterwards said that if it came to a vote, that he would vote yes. The remainder of the candidates really felt that it was a good thing, that they would be inclined. However, they wanted more information. They felt that there might be another side to it, so that they weren't going to commit that night and give us a response. So we just have to wait. There were some other questions, as you know, Bill mentioned, but that was really a big focus in regards to Hayden Lane. Also, you know, some developing that's going on outside of our doors. Yeah, but Hayden Lane was a big focus. Hopefully it'll be the 4 who said that they would vote yes. Hopefully they maintain that position, but we'll see. And not all of them are actually going to be elected. You know, out of each district had 2 representatives, and only one person will be elected on the 5th. So I don't know. Does anybody have any questions about the whole Hayden Lane?
I thought that the experienced politicians did a really good job of saying no without saying no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They didn't commit
Right.
to it. And it's fair that they need to get more information. A lot of them actually sat on the road and said that the majority of the traffic that goes through that is not Sandoval residents. It's, you know, the Surfside shops and so
Commercial vehicles
Right.
using that to
Yes,
load their buildings.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Bill, you were gonna say something
I was
about
just
that.
gonna say, I just want to temper expectations that the new council will be seated in early November, right after the election. I anticipate that to get all our ducks in a row, we probably will make a big push on this in the January, February timeframe of next year, because we're also going to start having conversations with land use council specialists as part of Becker Polikoff
Hmm.
to sort of make sure that we have our history correct and understand how we got to this point, and then help us put together the package in the right way and understand what trade-offs we may have to do with the city in order to make this happen.
Right. I think the turnout was really good. And I think that that really sends a clear message to the candidates that this is a big concern for Sandoval. And so, yeah, I thought that the turnout, it was on Zoom, it was on YouTube. It would be interesting to see how many after the event of folks watched it on YouTube. I think
I'll get
I
that at
think
the
that number
communications committee meeting. We'll
is
get those stats.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so that's that. And I think that, oh, the one thing that Jack asked me to really emphasize is the need for more committee members. Um, we are getting upon the time where we want to start meeting with the committees to look at the goals that they put out in the strategic plan. There's a lot that has been accomplished in that plan, more than people would think. And so to go over with all the committees to have a joint meeting again and to see what next steps they would want to do, what remains that we didn't get done, why we weren't able to accomplish it. Does it have to be revised? So that's going to be our next big focus on that. But we really need new members. It's pretty much, it's very minimal.
Well, I think the strategic planning committee is important because not only are you looking forward looking in terms of what aspirations we have for this community, we also have we want the strategic planning committee to be sort of our eyes and ears outside
the
our
community.
walls
Right.
to alert us so
Right.
that we can be prepared to deal with any things that come up and make sure that our interests are properly represented
Right.
with those issues.
Right, and I think for now, unless it was something like the meet and greet, committee members just wouldn't go off and start and represent themselves as
No.
Sandoval. But it's more like a watchdog kind of position, and we need to know what's going on.
Right. I think
And
Ice
bring
is a
people
good.
and bring people to the community
Yeah.
to explain
Yeah.
what's going on. I think that that's crucial because we want to be we don't want to wait after. We want to be proactive.
Right.
So I think it's a really important committee. I hope, there are people in the community that would want to participate.
Okay. Thank you, Beth Ann. All right. Our next board meeting is scheduled for October 24th at 6 p.m. Just note it would normally have been October 31st, but that's Halloween. So we don't want to get in the middle of the trick-or-treaters, so we moved it up a week for October. And as I mentioned, there may be an additional meeting if we've made progress with the contract discussion. So, but a proper notice would go out for any additional meetings. Okay. Since we've reached the end of the agenda, do I have a motion to adjourn the board meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a
Second.
second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Comments?
Oh, do we have any comments from the guest here? Oh, we thought they were going to go.
The gallery?
Okay.
Is